All right. Well, Jenn, I'm so excited to have just a conversation with you today so that everybody can get to know you and love you like I do. Jenn is the newest practitioner on our team, and I couldn't be more excited just to chat with her about her background and why she loves what she does, and just all the things today. We're just going to see where it goes. We know that the Lord's leading, so we're good with that. So Jenn, why don't you just start off with just telling people just, where you live and your, marriage, kids, those types of things. I think that would be good.
Yeah, the basics. Gotcha. So I live in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm on the east side of Cleveland in a small little town called Concord. And with my husband, my beautiful husband, Chris, and two kids. David's just turned 18, and I have a younger son, Jack, and he's 10 and a half.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I know that it's good to know a little bit like what season you're in, because you do have
Sure.
an older child, but also a younger. So that's, I know you can relate to moms
Yeah,
with
God
younger
was
and
good.
older. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. God was good. I thinking about my oldest leaving, I'm like, and then I was like, I still have one more at home. Not that I won't miss David, but yeah, yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, I'm in a busy season, lots of sports, the kids, this is a really good season. It's a
Yeah.
really good season.
It
Yeah,
is. Every season's good in its own way is what I'm learning.
that's true.
It's
That's
just
true.
different, but it is good. So,
True. True.
so now that people kind of know what season you're in, I would love to just kind of maybe start wherever you think would be good in your like more your you can either start in your health journey or in your professional journey.
Sure. Well,
Either
they
one.
they sort of combine, so
They
that's
probably do,
that's
yeah.
yeah. So let me start. Let's see. Let me start in high school. So I was super anxious. I think I was probably super depressed too, and didn't know it. Um, and so fast forward through college, I started having panic attacks, and I was like, of course, at the time, I didn't know what they were,
Mhm.
and I was like, what is this, right? Um, and then I graduated from college, and I started working with Standard Process, which is a professional supplement company, and realized that, there was help for this. And, I grew up sort of naturally. My dad was into supplements in the 70s when no one else kind of knew
Yeah.
what they were. And so, and I come from a background, we're Italian. And so my grandmother cooked everything from scratch, and we, ate really well. And
Mhm.
so it was just a natural progression for me. It was the paradigm fit, right? So, Standard Process, I just had access to amazing healers, Carrie.
Yeah.
And God was good. Like he showed me what was going on. And that's why I'm so passionate about this, because I see it in kids now. I see it in people. And, obviously, drugs have their place, of course, absolutely. But I just think there's so many things that we can do before we get to drugs.
Yeah, for sure. And I can just see now how God just wove all this together. It is kind of
Yeah.
amazing. The more that I get to know you and the more that, every time we talk about this, I do learn a little bit more about your background and just, how it all is just weaved together. And that's what he does with all of us. But it's just really cool to see how he's worked throughout all these things. And let's just kind of talk about your tenure at Standard Process. Like you just learned so much. You were just around brilliant people, and the products that Standard Process has, it's an extensive line, but you know
Yep.
it extremely well. Like my mind is constantly blown when we talk about, and consult on patients and clients, and you're just like rattling off all these things. And I'm like, wait, hold on. I got to write this down. Like I can't, this is a lot for me, but for you, it's just, that's what you've known for
Did.
20 years.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, exactly. It's, Standard Process taught me. So part of Standard Process was the way that we educated doctors about the product was seminars. And so we would have, the first couple of years I started working for Standard Process, we probably had 25 12-hour seminars. So,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of seminars. So, Carrie, I've probably been through 1,800 hours of continuing education,
Right.
for doctors, plus all the training that Standard Process put their sales force through. And look, like this was my job. I
Yeah.
had, doctors
Right.
would send me labs. They would say, this is the patient, this is the history. What do you think?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, it was God's way to get me ready for where I am now.
Right. So so you worked there for 20 years. You had a really good job,
Yeah.
paid really well.
Yes.
And I'll never forget the day that you called me or you text me and you're like, I'm quitting my job. And I was like,
I am
huh, wait,
choking
wait,
up, Carrie.
what? Because we had, previously we met through She Works His Way. I didn't mention that, but it's a Christian organization that is amazing. Just a discipleship organization. And if you have followed me for any amount of time, you've heard me talk about them. I love that community dearly. And I met Jenn through that community. And so we were kind of we knew each other, but not really. And then it was that we met at the conference. Actually, we met in person for the first time at the
Correct.
Neuro conference that She Works His Way has. And we had just talked about how you wanted to do that. And I was like, well, maybe she'll get there eventually. And literally like the next week, I get a text. And so it was totally a God thing. But share a little bit about that, because that's not easy, but I do feel like it's a really big part of your story.
Sure. Yes, it's a huge piece. So for a long time, Carrie, I felt the Lord saying, like, you have to quit your job. And I was like, quit my job? What do you mean quit my job? I love my job.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great job. I was the breadwinner. Like, it was a good fit for me. I loved nutrition. I loved learning about it. I loved teaching the doctors about it. And I couldn't get enough of it. And the Lord just kept saying, you got to quit your job. And I was like, so I got to a point, where I was like, God, you're going to have to quit my job for me. I can't do it.
Yeah.
And I literally wrote in my journal, like, don't worry about anything. You will be prompted. And so long story short, I went to the Narrow conference, and God he changed my heart. And I got home that night and I thought, oh my gosh, I have to quit my job. And yeah, I told my husband, I said, I have to quit my job. And he goes, I knew you should have quit your job a year ago.
Wow. That gave me
Right?
goosebumps.
I
I mean,
know.
really. Mm,
Right. And so I wasn't one of those people like, okay, we can, do this, we'll float this, we'll do this, it'll be fine, right? Like you just quit your job. Like I just wasn't one of those
right.
people. And God just did it all. Now, and I'm not saying it was easy. God
Mhm.
carried me, literally carried me through
Yeah,
it.
for sure. That's just a really big part of your testimony, I think, is just, yes, he prompted you, but you were obedient. So I just think that's a beautiful example of the work that he's doing in your life. And so,
It,
yeah.
it was his by his grace, Carrie.
Yeah, and it continues to be, because again,
Yes.
that was a huge transition for you. I really truly believe he wanted you to transition out of that because he wanted you to help more people.
Yes.
Like you said, you really have a passion. You've always had a passion for helping people, but it wasn't directly. You weren't helping people directly. Obviously, you were helping other people help people.
Correct.
But you just have an innate ability to just know what somebody needs, and that is a true gift. Like I
Thank
really
you.
haven't ever met anybody else that's like that. And so that to me was just, I was drawn to that. And so that was one of the reasons why I was like, we have to work together. Like this is, this is becoming really obvious. And
Well,
so
let me back up and tell you. So when we obviously a mutual friend connected us, and She Works His Way, and connected us, and so of course I immediately jumped down and like Googled Carrie Cooney and pulled up your website. I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do. Like this is what I want to do. And it was just so funny. It was an immediate connection. So it's
yeah.
mutual.
So on both, you're right, on both sides.
Yeah,
That's just how he works. But
that's right.
I kind of want to pause here and talk about your personal health journey, because
Sure.
you mentioned a little bit about it, but there was a lot in between that maybe we could unpack a little bit, because I do want people to understand, like, yes, you have the knowledge from working at Standard Process, but you also have personal experience with a chronic health condition.
Yeah. Well, did you ever hear the saying, like, your greatest problem is also your greatest gift?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was mine.
Mhm.
And um Sorry, Carrie.
No, don't be sorry.
So I was diagnosed with Lyme
Mhm.
disease, and Lyme is hard.
Yeah.
Just
It's
is.
not straightforward whatsoever.
No, there's no linear do this and you get better.
Yeah.
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
So long story short, I was I was having lunch with doctors, and I couldn't catch my breath when I was talking to a doctor. I was like, what is that? And then I felt like I had the flu all the time, and I would have fevers on and off, and I was like, what is this? Right? So long story short, it took me about probably 8 years. And the only reason I wasn't in bed sick was because I did what I did, and people were helping me, and I was on, doing the lifestyle things and taking supplements, and so I was functional barely. I would come home for work and sleep for 3 hours. My husband was a saint. He would cook dinner, and
Yeah.
um, so finally, I kept asking my mentor. I consider my mentor, Dr. Stuart White. He's amazing. And I said, "Do you think I have Lyme?" He goes, "Nah, I don't think you have Lyme." I didn't have joint pain, which was the
Yeah.
classic symptom for Lyme, and I didn't think I had Lyme either, to be honest. And of course, they call Lyme the great imitator.
Right.
And so, long story short, I did some blood work through Agenix Labs. So I had been. Let me back up 1 second. I had been tested. I did the Western ELISA and the Western blot, and they were negative.
Mhm.
Which, just for those that don't know, those are commonly negative. Lyme is a stealth pathogen, so it literally evades the immune system not to produce antibodies, and so it a lot of times won't show up on a Western blot or an ELISA, which are your mainstream tests for Lyme. So I did a specialized test through Igenix Labs. Igenix specializes in, of course, testing for Lyme antibodies, PCR, and it was positive, and it lit up like a Christmas tree. And I had 4 different co-infections plus Lyme, and had probably been bitten a couple times based on the bands.
Yeah.
And so that is really when I was like, okay, I felt so much relief just knowing what it was, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So after that, it was, I did everything that I sort of knew to do, and it wasn't working, which again, that's the evasiveness of Lyme, until I came upon a technique called the Jaffe-Miller technique, which is a laser technique.
Mhm.
And that is what's really just got me over the hump and sort of got me into remission.
Right. I think that it it's hard when you want the stepwise approach, but there isn't one. And I'm
Not for
sure
Lyme.
it can feel really just overwhelming and like there's no hope sometimes.
That's exactly how it feels.
Yeah.
You are grabbing onto anything you can grab onto, because it's just not linear. It's not there's no A to B, C to D process.
Right. And I there are clients that come to me that have chronic issues. And while I have the resources and obviously like peeling back the layers and all that, I know how to do that, but I've never been there.
Right.
And that's one thing that I think is very, it's something that sometimes people want to work with people that have been where they've been. And
Yes.
so I have, my story is very specific to me. Your story is very specific to you. That's why I'm just, glad that people are hearing this so that I think God just leads us to the people that we need,
Correct. Absolutely.
that way.
100%.
Yeah. So currently, how are you feeling?
Great. Yeah, great. Thank God. After the laser technique, of course, it's an ongoing battle, right? It's a constant. You really don't get rid of Lyme, so to say. I have flares where, you feel bad, but I have the tools, different tools. And I keep learning. I love this stuff. I just keep learning and digging and, looking for things to, help boost ATP and to help regenerate the mitochondria and to, keep my stress levels low and things that, really everybody should be doing, but are more important for Lyme patients because, and if you're listening and you're one of those people that, you have to sort of live in a bubble, right? You got to eat every 2 hours or every 3 hours, and you can't, stay out late, and you have to sleep. And, that's, if you go outside that bubble, you sort of don't do well. That's probably a stealth infection.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah. So actually, on the podcast, I've been talking about some of these stealth infections. So if this is completely new to you, then you might, want to go back and listen to those episodes, or at the time of this recording, that haven't come out yet. But it's a monster, right? It's like,
Is
it's
a
not just
monster.
something that you can talk about in a 15-minute podcast episode or Instagram post, or, and so that's why you really do need to work with somebody else, because trying to figure it out on your own, I mean,
Correct.
you're
You
too
can't.
close. Yeah, you just can't.
Just can't.
Right.
Yeah, you're too close. You hit the nail on the head. And I find that most Lyme patients are super educated, because they have to be, which I love. But again, you still can't do it yourself. As you said, you're just too close.
Right. And I mean, you'll spend countless hours and time and energy and money on supplements and all the
They're not
things. And it's
right.
really, you're still going to be just, spinning
Right.
your wheels to a certain degree with
Correct.
something like that. So if that resonated with you, definitely reach out to us. And, we do, free just, hey, is this a good fit calls, right? That might be
Absolutely.
something that would be good as well. But just so excited to have Jenn on with us. So, we consult on clients all the time. It's just great to put two heads together, honestly, because I'm coming at it from a different angle. She's coming at it from a different angle, and just with both with knowledge, but yet honestly, almost completely different knowledge in a certain way. It does overlap, but different worlds,
Right.
if you will.
Right.
So,
Which is why God put us probably together,
yes,
because it was a really good fit.
definitely. You didn't necessarily mention this, but I definitely want to just bring it up, is that at your time in standard process, you did learn about muscle testing.
Correct.
And I know sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain, but it's just amazing for asking the body what it needs and prioritizing certain things, because when there's so many things going on, that can definitely be a really hard thing to do. It's just, where do you even start, right?
Correct. So yeah, I do see people in person too. And so it's one of my main modalities. I use NRT, nutrition response testing, because I know it the best and it's easy. For those listening, they might have heard of AK, which is applied kinesiology, or CRA, which is contact reflex analysis. They're all sort of a spin-off of AK, applied kinesiology. And the doctors who have founded each of the techniques, Stewart did contact, or forget the name, it's evading me at the moment, but anyway, it's just a little bit of a different spin on AK. But so I do use nutrition response testing to really get to the root, like, what does the body want me to prioritize? Because the body will really only heal what it wants to heal when it wants to heal it.
True.
And it heals in a certain order, and it won't heal except for in this order. And so you ask the nervous system. So muscle testing is basically asking the nervous system through a muscle, yes or no questions, what it would like to prioritize.
Yeah. And I know that might sound out there.
Right.
And I get
it is out there.
It is out there, yet I do feel like there's such a component of the Holy Spirit to it.
Amen.
Which is, I mean, and it's just, I don't know. I don't fully know this technique. I have learned about it. I do know about it. I don't practice it personally. I do want to learn, but I just believe that anything that you have can be used alongside the Holy Spirit or without it. And this is 100% just, yeah, I've just seen it.
Yes.
So.
Yes. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that I don't use testing. I do use testing too. It's great to have the objective testing, and you need the objective testing. In fact, the founder of AK, Dr. George Goodhart, he always said you need multiple
Mhm.
ways to confirm what's going on. So I don't just use one technique,
Right.
but I love muscle testing because it's real time and you're asking the body what it wants. And then when you match that up with some testing, you just have a really good complete picture of how you can help a client.
Yeah, for sure. So I wanted to mention that it's just a really big bonus and technique that Jenn uses that I think is really unique and can help really expedite healing. Because, like you said, if the body does everything doesn't show up on blood work, which is what I typically use as my main indicator. Is what needs to be addressed. Everything doesn't show up on there because the body just can't deal with all these things at one time if you have chronic issues that are just one on top of the other, if that makes sense.
Correct.
So sometimes it is a little bit difficult to decide, what's really going on here. It's showing me one thing, but these symptoms and this other, it's telling me another thing. So that's kind of where this muscle testing can really come in and help just decide, okay, what's really going on here and how can we go at it in the best way.
Absolutely, because it takes the practitioner not out of it, but as a practitioner, you're in your head and you see these symptoms and you're like, okay, it's this, or we should probably do this. And then sometimes I'll muscle test and I'll go, oh, that's not what the body wants. The body
Right.
wants to do this, but I can see what the body wants to do. It wants to do this first so it can heal what the patient came in for, right? But it
Right.
needs to handle this first.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a brilliant God designed way to really support healing. And I can do it. I know this sounds very esoteric, but I can do it virtually. It's called quantum nutrition testing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do that also.
Right. Yeah. So I'm just really excited to have Jenn on board so that she can, help clients in a different way than I can. And really, it's not like her way and my way. It's really like we can put our heads together and help clients in a much better way, working in our strengths, because I'm more analytical. It's what I'm seeing, right? I can put the
Yeah.
pieces together, but then sometimes, I just need another layer of, okay, well, what should I prioritize first? So it was honestly the piece that I felt that I was missing, that I was getting a little bit overwhelmed and maybe just not frustrated, but just, I feel like there's something missing. I kept thinking that over the summer. And then it was just like one day it clicked. Jenn, we need to work together. That's exactly what's going on here. So I just think, it's just another way that God's working, and I'm just so thankful. So
Me too.
I've loved our conversation so far. I think people have really gotten a feel for your personality, what, your experiences, your expertise that you've, learned about, in your, I guess, 20 plus years, right? In
Yes.
this
Yes.
field.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so I guess as we kind of wrap up, like, where is your heart with where God's leading you, and why you feel like he's brought you here?
It's funny because day one, Carrie, I think back even in high school, like this is what I always wanted to do. I didn't know it. Like I had thought I always loved natural medicine and I would read but I didn't know how to do it or where I would be but I just look back and it chokes me up. Like this is always where I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes it takes all that, all the other to bring you here. When, yes, I
You
mean,
you need all the
you do,
other.
you do. And it's just always perfect timing, you know,
Amen.
for sure. So we could go on, but we'll leave it
Right.
here. We could talk
Yes.
all day. I
Yes.
just am so thankful for God's leading in this. And just, I think you can see why community and bringing other practitioners on has been on my heart for a while, because of what we've talked about, because 2 and 3 and 4 heads together is better than one. And it's not
Yep.
a competition. They all work together.
Yep.
And, God says we should be in community, and this is no different than that. So I'm just really excited to be working more closely with Jenn. We could literally talk all day.
Yeah. Carrie, I just want to say thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for bringing me on.
of
Thank you
course.
for bringing me into the practice. I'm just so excited to just meet your clients and your people and support them in any way I can.
Yes, and Jenn and I are expectant to have another announcement of things that we're working on. So
Yes.
that's
Yes.
that's the Lord's timing. So we're
Right.
not going to talk about that right now, but he's just got some really awesome things in the work, but we're just always relying on him every single day and trying not to go ahead or like behind, but just stay in step with him. So that's our goal with
Amen.
everything. So thank you for being on, Jenn. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
for everybody to just get to know you and love you as much as I do. And I'm sure they'll be seeing more of you.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Carrie.
Yes.